Hi crafty friends, welcome back to my channel where I'm focused on quick, easy paper craft projects using digital scrapbook collections. If this is something you're interested in, please click the subscribe button. I'm continuing my 5-day series focused on easy hybrid paper craft projects. Today, I'm featuring the Changes collection by Pixel Giraffe Design. This collection is available at digital-artistry-online.com, and the collection right here has all the mixed media vibes going for it, which is why I selected it. So the collection includes a lot of different packs, just like any standard paper collection would. For today's project, I am using the elements, which you see pictured here. And I'm also using her collage papers. So there's 4 separate papers available in this collage pack. And what I do is I will print them. So here I printed three rows of 3 different papers and then cut them down as I need them. If the end goal is we are making artist trading cards, also known as ATCs. If you're not familiar with artist trading cards, let me introduce you. An ATC measures, here's one I have done, measures 2.5 by 3.5 inches. It's generally created flat. There's no popped up chunky items on it. And then the creator typically signs their name, social media info, contact info on the back. So when I'm making mine, I like to make the center, the base of it, a piece of cardboard. You can certainly order chipboard off of Amazon or get it at your craft store. This makes it extra sturdy. What I'm using is I'm recycling a piece of packaging that came from a paper order. So I had a 12 by 12 piece of cardboard and I just cut it down to these 2.5 by 3.5 pieces. If you don't have that, consider flattening out a cereal box and just cutting that down, or a pasta box. It's going to completely get covered, so it's a nice way to recycle and not need to buy new materials. So this paper is going to do the heavy lifting for me. Traditional artist trading cards, if you're doing them from scratch, you're going to pull out all of your paints, your acrylics, your gouache, your watercolors, your distress strays, your inks, your stamps, and you're going to layer it up. Basically, she has done that for us. You can see, the dimension on these papers. You can see the palette brush strokes here, the layers of ink that have all been smooshed together. You see all the texture. I love it. Here it looks like she used a piece of paper and then gessoed over it. There's even some stitching on the edge of this one, and then maybe some stamped marks or some handwritten marks on here. We're not doing that. We are simply cutting down the paper. So I cut down 2 pieces, and again, look at the texture that's already on here. So the other items we're going to want to use today is you can use Mod Podge. I like my matte gel medium. It's an acrylic medium. This is going to serve as my glue to put all my pieces together. It also seals. I'm going to be using a matte finish spray, and this is going to work with the deli paper that I'm using. So this is deli paper. It's literally the stuff that delis use to wrap sandwiches. So let me pull the box out of the way and show this to you. So this is what it looks like. It comes in these sheets and it's creased. It's very thin. You can see how transparent it is. I am going to actually print onto this. And when I do that, then I'm going to have this really sheer piece of printed. Let me show you. Once it's printed on, it's going to look like this. And so this was, for example, an element that was in this kit. And here's some stamps, and I simply changed the color. These are some like hand-painted little butterflies. This fun little girl that's torn, but that's okay. We're going to use her anyway. But I want to show you how I do this. So I actually feed this through my printer. It's an inkjet printer. It's one of those tankless ones. I'll link it below if you're interested. But I think any home inkjet printer works. But to feed it, all I do is, this is a piece of, I don't know, thin cardstock. It's maybe 80 pounds. I use Scotch tape. I cut down my piece of paper. I lay it over and I Scotch tape the edges. And then this feeds right through my inkjet printer. And I end up, here you can see where my tape is on the edge. So I tape that down, fed that through, and then I just take it off and cut out the pieces when I'm ready to use them. So just snip them apart, and voila, I have this sheer little piece of paper. My process is, I run this through. When it comes out, you can see the ink is wet. You see it by, you know, kind of like tilting, and you can see it's wet. I let that dry for an hour or two. Then I am going to use this product, which I picked up at Hobby Lobby, but you can certainly order online. It is a spray, and this is a low VOC, which is why I picked this one. I will do this inside. Probably you should go to your basement or outside, but I do use it inside. Literally a really light spritz over, set that aside. Once that is dry, then these are a little more resistant. If you were to try and use adhesive, this gel medium right over it, it's going to smear. And this is a good example. That smeared because I wanted to get started before I picked up my spray. My son borrowed it and didn't return it. So I had to go get a new bottle. But that is what will happen here. You can see how it bleeds, which could be part of the look and isn't awful, but I would rather that they don't. So that's why you want to use that spray. All right. So let's jump in to how I make one of these. So I'm going to need one piece of my cardboard, and I need to figure out which of these I want to use. So I make these a little bigger than they need to be, and I just add a 1/4 inch on either side. And that way this will wrap around. Then I cut another piece a 1/4 inch from, actually less than that, about 1/8 of an inch from either side, and I will lay that over once I fold it. Here you're going to see what I mean. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is decide which paper I want to use. And I think I am going to use this one. All right, so what I'm going to do is, using my medium, and again, you could use Mod Podge if you want. I happen to have this. I like this. So I'm just going to put a thin layer over my cardboard. And the other thing I want to do is make sure I get the edges, because I want this to adhere really, really well. All right, So now we are simply going to turn this upside down and kind of sort of center it. It's not critical. All right. And then I'm going to round my corners a little. And I do this just so that I don't get any bulk on the fold. Okay. And while that's still wet, I'm going to use my bone folder. Flatten that out and smooth that down and make sure that that is grabbing really well. Okay. Now remember, we got it right here on these edges already. I'm going to come back and add a little to the back of the paper because we're going to start folding that. A little bit goes a long way with this stuff. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold it up on the long sides. And I'm going to actually run it along the table to get that really solid wrap. So acrylic medium is often used as a sealant on things, but it is essentially a glue. Okay, there we go. Just like wet glue, it takes a minute to grab hold. And then we're going to go on this side. You could use wet glue for this part. You don't necessarily need to use this. But since I've got it out, we're going to. All right. Okay. And then I'm going to run along my edges, make sure they're adhered tight. And then I'm going to kind of round these corners a little because they're sharp. I don't know if you can see that. Like that is actually sharp. So we're just going to bend those and soften those corners. All right, so there's our front now. Isn't that pretty? And it looks super crisp and well finished. So now okay. It's not like real paper crafting unless you're using scissors and an adhesive, am I right? All right. Okay, now we've got that adhered. Okay. This comes together so quick. Now for the fun part. We get to decide what we want on the front. I love this series of butterflies. Just a matter of, do we want it to go here or here? I think I like it here. So what I'm gonna do is cut them a little tighter. So what I find when I use the deli paper is the edges almost sort of melt away because it's so thin when you're adhering this. All the same, I do want to cut some of that excess away. And we could cut these individually. But I like that series of them. The sky's the limit on artist trading cards. These are like little mini pieces of art in and of themselves. So what I'm gonna do is put some of the medium down to act as sort of a glue. There we go. And I'm gonna smooth that out. I want that to adhere really well. There's a little bit of wrinkle that can happen. You can certainly smooth it, but honestly, I don't really mind it. To me, it's just more texture. So I don't know if you can see how that completely disappears almost. The edges are barely noticeable. So it's still wet. But what I can do now, because I put that fixative on it, is I can go right along those edges and put a little more over it. And this is now going to protect that color, but also make sure that those edges sort of disappear. And I don't mind brush strokes. Like, that's part of the collage, right? That's part of the art in and of itself. So we've got one down. And I think maybe we're just going to use the simple, well, do you want to use her? Let's use her. She's so cute. I'm going to have her kind of, I know I tore her, but I think we can piece her back together. Going to have, butterflies are so happy to me. They're so representative of change and metamorphosis and transformation, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. So what if we put her right here? So again, I'm going to want to put some of the medium down to act as the glue. I'm not quite sure how far that's going to go, so I'm going to cover it all. I'm going to have her kind of coming off the side here. With my finger, just smooth that out. And then what I could do is just completely wrap her around the side. Right onto the back of it. And now we're going to go over top of her very lightly, especially on the edges. There, I smeared a little bit of ink. I could have gone heavier on my finish spray. We'll just make sure that's sealed well. And there is my artist trading card. You want to let this completely dry. And then when you're finished, you're going to want to initial it somewhere on the front. My artist initials, and then on the back I can either print and glue it on or just handwrite my social media contacts, my email, maybe my address. But a lot of folks like to use these to trade. So they fit a standard baseball card size folder, and you can collect these from people based on location or themes, or it's a fun thing to swap. For instance, you know, this whole collection of change, we could start a swap where everybody makes one. They're so small and lightweight, they fit in an envelope or inside of a card. It's cheap to mail, and we could swap amongst ourselves and get a little piece of art from a bunch of different people. If that's anything you're interested in, please leave a comment. I would love to organize something like that. I hope you give it a try and let me know if you have luck printing, or how you enjoyed your project printing on deli paper and using these mixed media elements in a physical way that certainly isn't messy. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you are interested in more quick and simple paper crafting projects, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. This week I am releasing 5 days of easy projects. Thanks for watching.